He started out completely alone in a tree in Tunisia. Today, his family includes a gentle giant dog, another mischievous cat, and yes, even a little mouse. This is Habibi's story, and it's absolutely wild. Picture this, the middle of the night in Tunisia, and somewhere high up in a tree sits the tiniest ball of white fluff you've ever seen. Little Habibi, barely 8 weeks old, is crying his heart out at least 3 meters off the ground. Nobody knows how long he's been up there or how he even managed to climb that high in the first place. His mama is nowhere to be found, and this baby is completely terrified and alone. Then, like something out of a fairy tale, 2 arms reach up through the darkness and gently lift him down. A young woman visiting Tunisia for a university project had heard his faint, raspy meowing while walking by. She couldn't believe her eyes when she spotted this fragile little creature stuck up there. With her friend's help, they rescued him from his leafy prison. He was so light, so delicate in her hands, she worried he might not survive. But this kitten had other plans. They smuggled him into their hotel room, where he discovered the glorious concept of food. He drank water until he puffed up to double his size, looking like a tiny white balloon. The poor thing had probably been baking in the burning sun all day, maybe longer. After filling his belly until he couldn't possibly eat another bite, he crashed hard, sleeping for 12 straight hours. Finally, he was safe. The rescuers went back outside, searching for over an hour, hoping to find his mother or siblings. But there was no one, just silence. To this day, nobody knows what happened to Habibi's family or why he ended up abandoned in that tree. His new human thinks about his mama often, wondering if she's still alive, if she has food and shelter, if she somehow knows that one of her babies made it to safety. Now, here's where things get interesting. Bringing an animal from Tunisia to Europe requires following a strict vaccination protocol that takes 5 months. And this woman had exactly 6 days before her flight home to Germany. She Googled frantically from morning until night, emailed and called health ministries across Europe, searching for any loophole. Every single answer came back the same: absolutely not. So she did what any completely devoted cat parent would do. She canceled her flight and booked a ferry to Italy instead. Everyone told her she was crazy, that the risk of getting caught was too high. But one look at that little face and she knew she couldn't leave him behind. She loved him too much. They boarded the ferry together and spent the next 27 hours crossing the Mediterranean Sea. While his human was barely holding it together with anxiety, Habibi was having the absolute time of his life, living his best kitten existence on the high seas. By the time they reached Italy, she was completely exhausted. At least he slept like an angel during the critical moments. Her heart pounded as they approached passport control. Any minute now, they'd be caught. Habibi would go back to Tunisia, and she'd probably end up in prison. But then luck smiled on them. The crowds were massive, too many people for officials to check everything carefully. They were scanning passports, not luggage. Somehow, miraculously, they slipped through unnoticed. As she walked through the exit with Habibi safe in her bag, the tears just came. They'd actually made it. Many exhausting hours later, involving trains through Italy and a flight, they finally arrived home in Germany. She'd never felt so happy or so completely drained. But Habibi's adventure was just beginning. Waiting at home was Indy, a rescue dog from Bulgaria and possibly the gentlest soul on 4 legs. Time for introductions. Except Habibi had other ideas. The moment he laid eyes on this giant furry creature, he completely lost it. He poofed up like a dandelion, hissed like a tiny demon, and made sounds nobody knew a kitten could make. He definitely did not sign up for this. Indy, who had lived with cats before and loved them, stood there completely baffled as this psychotic fluffball swatted at her repeatedly. And here's the thing, Indy never fought back. Not once. His humans started bringing them together in the same room, petting them both, reassuring everyone that life would be okay. And you know what? By day 2, something magical happened. Habibi cautiously curled up next to Indy, and they groomed each other. By day 3, once he realized she was absolutely no threat whatsoever, just pure sweetness wrapped in fur, he completely took over. Suddenly, he was in charge, constantly demanding her attention, pulling her hair, bothering her while she slept. Indy's basically resigned herself to this life now, this existence where a tiny white prince rules the household and she's his loyal subject. He chose her to be his home, following her everywhere, always wanting to be close. The gentle giant and the little ball of floof became inseparable. Then came Hugo, another cat who joined the family. After a couple of days of weird behavior, these two realized they were brothers and started acting accordingly. They played together, feeling safe and loved in their new home. And just when you think this story couldn't get any weirder, Hugo showed up at the door one evening carrying a tiny mouse. The poor little thing was in shock, shaking, clearly terrified, but miraculously without visible wounds. Here's something most people don't know. Even without visible injuries, when a mouse has contact with a cat, it needs antibiotics immediately. Cat saliva is extremely infectious to mice, and without treatment, they'll likely die within 72 hours. It was 9 at night, all the vets were closed, and finding someone who even treats wild mice proved incredibly difficult. The little mouse spent the night in a dark, warm box lined with toilet paper because apparently hay can be too sharp and cause injuries. By morning, they rushed him to a vet who could help. The terrified mouse even peed himself during the exam, but he got his life-saving antibiotics. Now Habibi's household includes that fostered mouse living safely away from curious cat paws. From a tree in Tunisia to a home in Germany with a dog, 2 cats, and a mouse. Not bad for a kitten who started with absolutely nothing. Habibi's human says it was the craziest decision of her life, but watching these unlikely bonds form makes every risk worthwhile. Choose love and kindness always. You never know who might need you more than you know.